Hi everyone, it's Shannon. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, I bring you new DIYs, inspiration, and new tutorials every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on my DIY YouTube channel, The Daily DIYer. If you are not new to my channel, then you know that Saturday videos are few and far between. And that's because I always post Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. However, today I'm bringing you a bonus video because I have decided to join in on Christina, the DIY Mommy's Easter and Spring DIY and Decor Challenge. So if you don't already follow Christina, make sure you check the description box below where I will have a link to her channel as well as the challenge that is going on today. So you can click that link and you'll be taken to a playlist here on YouTube that will be filled with great Easter and Spring DIYs and decor. Now for today's project, I've already given you a updated farmhouse living room tour. And if you missed that, I will link that down below as well. Now you may or may not have noticed that in the entryway, we have a gorgeous lavender sign that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. It sort of set the tone for the whole theme in there. And I wanted to create a lavender swag to go above it. So today I am bringing you that project. So let's get started. Now let me give you a quick look at the supplies I'll be using to make this swag. So for the greenery part, I have some lamb's ear. This is a stem from Hobby Lobby. I have a bush of lavender, which is also from Hobby Lobby. And then I have some stems of eucalyptus that I found at Walmart. And they are actually really, really pretty. So I grabbed 2 of those. And then for ribbon, I had these hanging on wreaths on the coffee bar. And since I took those down, I pulled the bows off because I really like this ribbon. Now I may or may not incorporate some of this into the swag, but I pulled it out just in case. I think it needs a little extra something, so those I'm putting off to the side. But for the main bow, I'm going to use this burlap ribbon, which is just from the Dollar Tree. So I have 2 new ones and then one that I have opened already and used some of. So I just have plenty on hand for that. And then over here for tools, I have a wire cutter to cut down my stems, scissors, some jute, my hot glue gun, and some glue sticks. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so here is my lavender bush. I'm actually gonna cut some of this stem down and spread this guy in half, and that's going to give me sort of structure for the stability of the swag. And I've already cut some of this out and used it different places in the living room as well. So this isn't as full as like a bush would come when you purchase it from Hobby Lobby. But yeah, I'm just going to cut this to this little marker here as close as I can get. That way the stems stay all together, but I can bend this out and work on adding the greenery into it. All right, so here it is, just the sort of main part of the swag. And that middle part we're not gonna see because we're gonna put the bow right there in the middle. And now all I have to do is add the greenery and sort of build it up. So I'm gonna start with the lamb's ear first, which is going to give some bulk to the swag. And then I'm just gonna throw a few little sprigs of the eucalyptus in just to give it a little bit extra texture and interest to it. All right, so basically what I did is I just weaved those extra stems into that main lavender bunch and added lots and lots of glue to help hold it into place. But I'm also going to tie some jute around these side pieces here just to make sure it holds really well. So I'm gonna do that next after all of this hot glue is finished drying. Right, so I have it all tied up, and then I also added some hot glue to the jute just to sort of help bond the string to the middle there. And now I'm gonna go ahead and start working on the bow, and I'll sort of walk you through that as well. All right, so for this bow, I do want quite a big bow to go in the middle so I can cover all that up. All the workings of the swag up. And so I'm gonna open one of my new Dollar Tree burlap ribbon bundles. And I'm also gonna start by pulling off a good length of jute so I have that handy and ready to go when I need it. And to make a wreath bow, or in this case a swag bow, we're just gonna start by making one loop. We're gonna fold this back this way and make another loop. So we kind of have a figure 8 going on here. And what I want to do now is I want to size this. So this is just sort of a starter size, just to make sure that my loops are big enough that when I gather the middle, it's going to cover up the middle but still be wide enough. And you also kind of want it proportionate. You don't want something way too small or too big and it's going to cover up your swag. So I think this is about the size that I need. I'd say that's probably about a 5-inch loop there from here to the middle. And now another important thing is to make sure that our loops are even. So I'm just gonna pull on these, and these are about the same size. So now we can start working on building up more loops on both sides. So you just fold these over, pull on them, to make sure each loop that you create is the same size as the one underneath it. So that one's a little long, you just pull it tight to make sure that it's even. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna keep building on these loops until I've gone through the whole spool of ribbon. All right, so now that I have all of my loops created, I've got 5 on each side. This is a 9-foot spool of ribbon just for reference. And I also have this extra tail here, and I want my bow to have a middle, so it's not just a big ball. This is actually gonna have loops on each side and then also a middle, which we're gonna create a smaller loop for the middle. So all you have to do is take that extra tail, and we're gonna fold over a smaller loop. So I've just made a smaller loop, a little bit bigger than half the size of the loops on the side, so that when we have it all pulled apart, you'll have this smaller center loop. That kind of helps create a nice centerpiece for your bow. So now that we have all of our loops, we're gonna leave this tail here for a minute, and now we're gonna create the center. So the important thing about bows is that you need to make a nice crease. So I'm just gonna take my thumb here and I'm gonna push the middle of the ribbon down. So there's a point on this side and there's a valley on this side, and then we're also going to pull the sides back. So basically we have a creased center, and I know it's kind of difficult and you'll have to hold tight, but it's really important that you do this because it will create a nice middle for your bow, and it'll also make it stronger. So once you have your middle creased, we're gonna come in with our jute, and I'm just going to wrap this several times so it holds it in place, and then we're gonna tie a knot. Now before I tie this completely, I want to make sure that my knot is in the middle, and as you can see, this side is longer than this side, so I'm going to move this over. Just going to make sure that this is centered so your loops become the same size when you go to pull them apart. You can loosen it just a little bit, but you make sure that you keep that nice creased center. All right, so now that my loops are the same size on each side, now I can go ahead and knot this. And now that this is secured here, we're gonna leave these long, because this is what we're gonna use to tie the bow to the middle of the swag. And we're gonna cut down this tail. This was the end of the ribbon here. So I'm just gonna cut that off. You don't want it too close to where it'll slip out, but leave it a little bit long, and then we're gonna start fluffing up our loops. So I'm just gonna start with the middle loop and then work my way out. You're gonna wanna hold the middle of your bow with your thumb so nothing comes loose, and you just pull and tug and fluff, and you don't want flat loops, so make sure you are pulling those apart, and you just kind of work with it and pull on it until it looks nice and full and even. All right, so now that we have our bow all fluffed up, we can use the extra jute tails that we left in the back to tie it onto the middle of the swag. And here is a look at the bow and how nicely it covers all the inner workings of the swag here. And if you wanted to add a tail, you can actually cut your tail separate. Just fold your ribbon in half and tie some jute up underneath here, and it'll look like it's attached, but it'll be a completely separate piece. I'm gonna forgo the tail on this just because my sign is hanging underneath and I don't want to cover the sign up, and I think I'm also going to forego the stripes here because I really like the natural simplistic look of this, but I'm not quite done yet because as you can see the swag looks a little bit tattered. So just like the bow needs fluffed, the swag and the greenery all needs to be fluffed and adjusted so it looks nice too. All right, so now that I have it fluffed, I'm sure I'm gonna fluff it a little more once it gets hung up, but I'm just gonna use a command hook on my old window to hang this. So I'm really happy with the way this whole area came together in our entryway. When I purchased this sign from Hobby Lobby, I just fell in love with it and loved the idea of bringing some lavender in the room for spring. And when I put it on this window, I knew I needed a greenery piece above it to really pull that lavender look in. And so what I also did is on the console table below it, I have this greenery piece, which is from Kirkland's, and I added some candles to the vases that come with it, but there's actually styrofoam in here. So I added some of the lavender stems into the styrofoam to help pull the lavender theme together there too. But I also loved that there was the lamb's ear and the eucalyptus in that piece, so that's why I pulled that into the swag above here too. So the whole thing has a nice cohesive look. Thank you all so much for joining me for this special Saturday tutorial. Make sure to go check out that playlist over on Christina's channel again. You'll find so much inspiration over there. And I hope you will stick around and subscribe to my channel. As I said before, I bring you new DIYs, tutorials, and new inspiration every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And don't forget to hit the bell as well so that you get notified when those videos do go live. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.